We are at the wonderful 2024 Trails Summit. Welcome. I'm Natalie Arroyo. I'm the 4th District Supervisor for Humboldt County, and we are in my district right now. We are also on Wiyot ancestral land, and I want to thank the stewards, original stewards of this land, the Wiyot people, and the ongoing stewardship that is happening in partnership with our local tribes. I do just have a couple of brief points of welcome, and then I'll pass it off to our first presenter. So I'm so grateful you all are here. Obviously, you're interested in trails, and we have a great lineup for you today. Some wonderful speakers from local jurisdictions and private sector partners, and folks who are going to tell us about statewide efforts as well. So we are going to be joined by Senator McGuire in a little while, and we have an awesome lineup of local folks for you too. All right, well, I have a long love story with trails locally, having worked on a lot of trail projects, both from the outreach perspective, helping to find funding, really helping to understand what the community's needs and wishes are. And I've been a huge advocate for trails since living in Humboldt County. So it's really exciting to me, and hopefully to all of you, to get to this point where so many trails are reaching that point where we can really see and use them and experience them. I don't know about y'all, but it felt like there were many years there where we had to advocate for something that we couldn't, experience or tangibly see happening yet. And I think so many people in this room have helped us get to the place we're at today, where now we're starting to realize this vision. It's a thrilling time to be a part of, and I just want to thank all of you for having been involved in whatever way, shape, or form and getting us to this point we're at today. So with that, we'll go ahead and have my dear friend Emily Sinkhorn, the Environmental Services Director for the City of Arcata, come up first, and take it away, Emily.
Great, well, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share updates from the City of Arcata on completing a next segment of the Annie and Mary Trail between Arcata and Blue Lake. The Annie and Mary Trail has been a community vision for 2 or 3 decades, really since the last trains ran on this corridor in the 90s, kind of late 90s. And Friends of the Annie and Mary Rail Trail has been a key advocate to keep this vision with momentum, to keep it top of mind. And they've done a lot to enable then jurisdictions like Arcata and Blue Lake and Caltrans to be working as key partners to develop these next phases. So the City of Blue Lake has completed the first segment of the Annie and Mary through their city limits. Right now, Caltrans is working on initiating a project to get from Blue Lake to Glendale, where the Murphy's grocery store is, mostly along State Route 299. And the City of Arcata is working on the section in purple. So really, Arcata has been focused on getting from the current northern terminus of the Humboldt Bay Trail at the Arcata Skate Park and all the way through northern Arcata neighborhoods, connecting to Valley West over State Route 299, and eventually getting to the Mad River. So the city is pursuing this new trail segment as we have really seen that there's high use of and high demand for trails in the Humboldt Bay area. We have automatic counters on the Humboldt Bay Trail North, and we've seen about 15,000 trail users per month traverse Humboldt Bay Trail North. We know that will only increase as the Humboldt Bay Trail becomes connected. And so the city really wants to extend that safe, connected transportation and recreation opportunity to our North Arcata neighborhoods, and that really will expand upon what is already a very extensive trail system within the City of Arcata. So we know this is a regional priority for over 2 decades. It's a priority of our city council. A key part is connecting Valley West, which is a neighborhood that is separated by highways 299 and 101 from downtown Arcata, And we're also excited about the possibility to really provide direct connection to the Mad River for Arcata residents. So we've had a lot of project partners and continue to have a lot of project partners on this project, really of working closely with the county and the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District as they have their Park 1 on the Mad River. We're working in close coordination with Caltrans for the connection over to Valley West, and we have many other great partners. I'm going to skip over just in interest of time. We had a community planning phase in 2018, 2019, and engaged a lot of community members throughout the project area. And really, during that time, it was prioritized to focus the trail connection along what was then the NCRA rail corridor. And as we know, since that time, the transition to the Great Redwood Trail Agency, and that will really help many of us in developing our key trail segments. Following that effort, the city secured funding from the Active Transportation Program, the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant Program, as well as now working on a soon-to-be finalized contribution from Caltrans District 1, really to see the project through from environmental documentation, design and right-of-way, all the way to construction. So our environmental documentation, CEQA and NEPA are complete, and right now we're really in the thick of the design phase. Our city engineering department is leading the design phase, we'll talk a little bit more about right-of-way and securing kind of the real property for the trail just in a little bit. This next year, we're really going to be focusing our outreach with adjacent property owners to refine that design, make sure that the trail is really taking into account all of the diverse land uses that it traverses through this area. And we're aiming to go to construction next summer, and that might span 2 seasons. So just as an update on our timeline. So just for some quick photos, the trail will start at the northern terminus of the Foster Avenue Trail, connect to the skate park, then we'll traverse up and along West End Road. We'll connect to the Arcata Community Forest Trailhead on West End Road. And this is where the trail will be traversing a more industrial and business-oriented district in Aldergrove, and that will take careful coordination with our adjacent neighbors. And then here are some existing photos of how it is to bike or walk across the Giantoli Lane overpass over 299. And this has been our council's priority of really providing more connections and connectivity in Valley West. So we're in coordination with Caltrans District 1, we're looking at opportunities for both sidewalk, connectivity to the bridge, and then a class 4 or separated bikeway that would provide more protection and safety for people walking and biking across the overpass. And then once you're outside of city limits and north of West End Road, when you're along the former Arcata and Mad River rail corridor, you're right down below West End Road in a really fun forested setting along the river. Really could be a key kind of crown jewel of this segment of trail. And that exciting segment of trail also presents some challenges. So fortunately, the majority of Arcata's section of trail is along the Great Redwood Trail agency corridor, and through those tremendous efforts for rail banking the northern section of the Great Redwood Trail corridor, that's how we're really able to locate the trail along the rail through city limits. However, north of West End Road and along the Mad River, the right-of-way is a lot more challenging along the former Arcata and Mad River Railroad. So because of the unique history of this separate rail corridor and past administrative actions, rail banking is not possible for this area of the corridor. So it really depends on close coordination with adjacent property owners and building those relationships so that we can locate the rail along and parallel to the former Arcata Mad River Railroad. Fortunately, the Water District, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, is a key project partner, and they own property along the river, and that is fortunately a key way that we're hoping to be able to have those easements and locate this section of the city's trail along the Mad River. So the city has much more work to do in this next year, but we're really looking forward to bringing these concepts for the Arcata, Annie, and Mary Trail in the next segment of this long envisioned trail. Really looking forward to bringing that to reality as it has been built in Blue Lake. So thank you for your time, and look forward to answering any questions and meeting people at the tabling. Thank you. And at this time, would love to introduce City of Eureka engineer, city engineer Jesse Willer for the next presentation.
Well, good morning, everyone. Just want to say it's that great presentation by Emily. Tough to follow Emily because she does such a fantastic job presenting. So I will be challenged to meet her expectations there. But I just want to start off by saying I'm very honored and excited to be here to be able to present to you and provide updates on what's going on in the city of Eureka with our trails. And we're going to start with a trail that has been recently completed, the Elk River Estuary Trail. This trail opened or started being used at the end of 2022. And actually throughout construction, the trail was being used in all ways and shapes and forms. You know, whether we had a hot pavement mat going down and people were trying to cross it and get behind the paver so they could stay on the prism there. So we knew there was a lot of demand to use the trail, and we've certainly seen that since it's been completed. This photo here kind of gives you a bird's eye view of what the Elk River Estuary looks like at a higher tide, and you can see along the left-hand side there we have the beautiful trail prism wrapping from the north there at the Hicksari Trail and heading south towards the new trailhead parking lot area. The next trail that we're going to talk about is our kind of next big effort in the city of Eureka. That's the Beta Zoo Trail. The Beta Zoo Trail has been a concept that has been around for well over a decade, going back to when there was a lot of gulches and greenway planning going on in Eureka with a trails council that was set up at the city that was guiding the formation of these trail networks in the city of Eureka. So the concept of having a trail that went up this slough, which we refer to as Second Slough, started then. So you'll see on your left-hand side there a map of the general trail alignment. To the north, connecting where the waterfront trail connects at Tidd Street near Open Door Clinic and the Shoreline RV Park. And then heading south, crossing Myrtle, behind Zane School, back behind the hospital, crossing Boone, and then eventually transitioning from a trail to a Class 2 bicycle boulevard facility where we're going to be enhancing sidewalks and crossings heading to the south towards the Sequoia Park Zoo and in the areas down there. So here's an aerial view of what that lower section north of Myrtle Avenue currently looks like. It's a lot of salt marsh down there, so we'll have a lot of construction activities that will look very similar to what was completed with Eureka Waterfront Trail near the end of Y Street, so kind of target area there where we'll have boardwalk sections, there'll be bridge sections along through that area. The middle section heading south of Myrtle gets into more of a riparian and forested type section. So you can see here there's an existing roadway prism that will be following along there in some areas, and a very kind of different feel in Eureka than what the majority of the built-out city feels like. This will provide a lot of connectivity again to schools in the area. There's Zane Middle School, in the middle there. There's also the residential neighborhoods that are both in the county and in the city of Eureka. There's St. Joseph Hospital, and then also connecting out to different trail segments in the greater Eureka area. Here's a figure kind of depicting what some of the pieces of the trail might look like. At the very top there, you see again bridges and boardwalk segments where we're crossing through salt marsh or crossing over slough channel. Then we have, kind of what you would expect to see: Eureka Waterfront Trail, the Bay Trail with a Class 1 trail facility, with a 10-foot wide paved, 10 to 12-foot wide paved section with shoulders, striping. We also have a number of very high volume crossings at both Myrtle, Boone, and then also Harris, where we have some of the highest traffic volumes in the city of Eureka. So very challenging to cross at those locations. So we're really focused in on safe, high visibility crosswalks in those areas. And in particular at Myrtle, on the bottom center there, you'll see a roundabout design. So that's the concept design for a roundabout at McFarland and Myrtle, where the trail will be coming up out of that section to the north, and then crossing over Myrtle onto McFarland and then back down into the riparian area. So that's a pretty big change for that area, but the intent there is to be able to provide a safe crossing there for trail users and other users as well. A little bit more of what this trail segment looks like in detail for the Class 1 trail portion of the project. This is still in the concept phase, but generally what you're seeing on the left is the alignment as it crosses, heading from Tid Street down through the channel there, crossing Myrtle, heading back out behind into the riparian area, and then down through this area. When I say riparian area, it's not, again, there's roadway that is already existing there, so it's not like a native riparian area that'll be torn up there. And then back behind Zane School, see we would go back on the far right-hand side of your photo there. It kind of goes back behind the school soccer field there, and then continues down, crossing Boone again, and then continuing up through the gulch until it hits Russ Street. And that's where it'll come back up onto surface streets and become more of a bicycle boulevard with widened sidewalks and ADA improvements in order to make it more walkable and bikeable. Schedule-wise, we are going to be completing our preliminary design and environmental document. Our goal is to complete it by December. We're halfway through that process and things are going along just fine. After that, we have a process for going into final design and right-of-way. And the right-of-way phase, as you can imagine, can be very challenging. We have a lot of properties that we're crossing going through this segment of the Beta Zoo Trail. So we'll be having a lot of work there, coordinating with property owners to negotiate easements and to kind of finalize the trail and really have the footprint for it locked in. Construction is aiming for 26 to 28. That's kind of a couple years there. It's a pretty long and lengthy project, so we anticipate there being a longer construction season to take that on. That could slide depending on how things go with the right-of-way process. It could be 27, 29 in that time frame, but that's the goal at this point, 26 through 28. And to wrap up, I wanted to I wanted to also kind of forecast a project that has trails component to it, and that is this Cooper Gulch Trail Network. The city has partnered with Link Development going after affordable housing and sustainable communities grant. This grant, the team was successful in getting the grant, and we're kind of in the process of looking, the Link side of our partnership is looking at getting tax credits to finalize this project funding. But it's very near. We should find out in the next couple months. But that would include a number of Class 1 trail facilities in Cooper Gulch connecting up to 14th Street on the right-hand side, as well as recreational trails, improvements to playgrounds, improvements to ball fields, restrooms, the disc golf course there. So a lot of exciting kind of neighborhood level trail activity happening with our fingers crossed coming up here in Cooper Gulch in the near future. And then finally, I just want to mention that we're kind of in the final phases of our Eureka Bike Plan. We've been working on this for the last year or so, and we've been looking at corridors throughout the city. These corridors oftentimes include trail connections or connecting to our existing trails. So just want to encourage anybody, if you'd like to stop back by our table, get you set up on a mailing list, or get you connected with our website to learn a little bit more about what's going on with our bike plan as we try to finalize that in the next 3 to 4 months. Thank you.
We got this. All right. We have a little treat for you. We've got a video so you can see some exciting stuff that's been happening with our volunteer trail stewards. We'll go ahead and pull that up for you.
Hello, I'm Rachel Garcia, Volunteer Trail Stewards Coordinator. The Volunteer Trail Stewards, or VTS, is a volunteer-based trail maintenance program founded in 2010 and operated by the Humboldt Trails Council since 2013. The program currently operates regular work crews at 11 active trail sites across the county, with additional sites being anticipated in the coming years. In this video, we will feature 2 of our newly active trail sites, highlighting the recent progress made by volunteer groups at the McKay Community Forest and at Freshwater Farms Reserve. Freshwater Farms is the ambassador property of the North Coast Regional Land Trust, whose core mission involves conserving farmlands and forest lands, protecting natural resources, watersheds, and wildlife habitat. The reserve contains 74 acres of tidal wetlands and historic pastures, where you can find a restored dairy barn, native plant nursery, and a public access nature trail that sweeps along the beautiful freshwater slough. The North Coast Regional Land Trust partnered with the Humboldt Trails Council to establish a VTS program in the fall of 2015 and began to host periodic trail workdays, which were temporarily paused during the COVID-19 pandemic. Trail Workdays reactivated in April of 2023 and are now being held every 3rd Sunday during the peak season between April and October. Workday activities mainly involve trail maintenance, wetland restoration, and invasive plant removal. If you'd like to become a steward of this gorgeous and serene watershed and farmland, you can find more info on the North Coast Regional Land Trust's webpage or at humtrails.org. There's much excitement stirring at the McKay Community Forest, where VTS Workdays, in partnership with Humboldt County, launched in August of 2022. Since then, ample progress is being made to increase public access to sustainable trail networks thanks to a strong and steady volunteer base. The ADA-accessible Huckleberry Loop Trail in the Northridge Trail Unit was completed in October of 2023, and ongoing work is advancing from the Redwood Acres Loop towards the Harris Street access point. The Northridge Trail Unit has largely been completed, with close to 3.5 miles of multi-use trail. In addition, surfacing of trails with compacted crushed aggregate has taken place in both the Northridge Trail Unit as well as the Redwood Acres Trail Unit. The Northridge Trail Unit is accessed from the Northridge Road parking lot located just off of Walnut Drive in Cutton. The Redwood Acres Trail Unit can be accessed off of Harris Street in Eureka, just west of Redwood Acres. There are 2 core volunteer groups, one that meets monthly every first Saturday, and another smaller crew, which we've named the Delta Force, that meets twice weekly to focus on more intensive projects. The Delta Force meets every Tuesday and Wednesday, and consists of a tightly knit group of dedicated volunteers. While work tends to focus on more labor-intensive projects, all skill levels are encouraged to join, as tools, safety training, and trail building techniques are provided by county staff. The county also provides lunch every week, thanks to a handful of generous local grocers and restaurants. Lunch is also freshly prepared at our monthly workdays, with special thanks to our volunteer cooks. Mealtime is a great time for volunteers to connect and celebrate an active morning out on the trails. As with weekly workdays, all ages and abilities are always welcomed to join, as there is a wide range of tasks available, from raking and hauling gravel to clipping and pulling invasive plants. There is something for everyone. The McKay VTS program has been largely successful due to each and every volunteer, while a tremendous impact is also being made thanks to the recent launch of a community partnership program. The Humboldt Trails Council gives special thanks to each of the local community service groups and organizations who've enlisted to collaborate on trail work days in a monthly rotation of diverse partnerships throughout the year. These trail partnerships have been integral to moving progress forward. Since the goal is to complete 31 miles of trail system in the forest, we need these partnerships as well as our volunteers. You can find out more about the McKay Community Forest by visiting the Humboldt County homepage. Then click on the Parks tab and navigate to the left-hand column, where you can view the full trail plan and county updates. The VTS program has logged more than 6,800 hours of work across 11 local trails from 2023 to 2024. We wish to thank all of our volunteers, especially each of our volunteer trail crew leaders, for their diligence and dedication to our local trails. Our trails simply would not be what they are today without the efforts of these volunteers. You can explore ways to get involved with the Trail Stewards by visiting the Volunteer tab and event calendar at humtrails.org. Thank you from the Humboldt Trails Council and Volunteer Trail Stewards.
Gotta let the credits roll. Oh, that was such a cool video. Thank you, Rachel. I know Rachel's here, roving around a little bit with her kiddo, and I know that you helped with this video too, didn't you? Yeah, maybe moral support. Awesome. It was really cool. If you are currently or have ever been a volunteer trail steward and you're able to, would you please stand up? Yes. Thank you so much. These trails and their maintenance really wouldn't be possible without the dedicated work of our volunteer trail stewards. It helps make the ongoing maintenance really feasible for local government. I can say on a personal thank you from me and from the county and for all the work that you do, because it helps make these things possible. So next we are going to move on to my friend and colleague Hank Seaman from the Environmental Services Director for County Public Works, and we're going to have a county update. Give me just 1 second to pull this up for you. There you go.
Good morning. So trails are routes where we move and travel under our own power or with assistance from a horse or a mobility device. And trails are a big family. There's a variety of forms and functions that trails can take. Some trails are designed for transportation, paved bike paths that are separated from the nearest road that are really part of our transportation infrastructure. And then we have natural surface or soft trails that really take us through our forests and our dunes and along the bay. So there's really a wide variety of trails. For over the last 10 years, one of the county's biggest projects has been to complete the trail connection between Eureka and Arcata. And we've called this Humboldt Bay Trail South. It's been a regional priority to connect the two biggest cities in our county with a paved separated path away from Highway 101. And it's been quite a journey to get to this point. Last May, we were able to celebrate the start of construction. And there's been many just valuable and critical contributions to this project over many years. And construction began in August with Arcata-based McCullough Construction and construction management by Ghirardelli and Associates and support from GHD, the design engineer. This project is well within the capability of McCullough Construction. We have a very professional team, and Work was suspended during the wet winter season, but it's resumed now in the spring. They're working on the levee behind the Brainerd Mill site, and very shortly, sites of construction will be more visible from the highway. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we think we're on track to have a good chance of being completed by the end of this year. And for several years, this was called the Final 4 miles between Eureka and Arcata. But hopefully that's not the last 4 miles of expanding the Humboldt Bay Trail network. And a few years ago, we realized that really the next important extension is to think about extending southward from Eureka to connect the communities of King Salmon and Humboldt Hill and Fields Landing and make it to College of the Redwoods. And right now, those communities are really isolated. They depend on vehicles to get into town. So the county applied for and received funds to work with Redwood Community Action Agency to develop a planning study. These are big projects, and it's really important to look closely at the community context, to look at the landscape, to get community input, and really try to understand what's feasible and what is the best fit for the community. So that planning study began last year. We'll be wrapping up this fall. And this is a map that shows the existing Humboldt Bay Trail network, Arcata's trail, Eureka's trail, the trail that's currently in construction by the county, and then we're talking about a southern extension. Wouldn't it be great to have College of the Redwoods and Cal Poly Humboldt connected by a separated network of bike paths? I'll give you a quick bird's eye view of some of the areas where this trail would go. It would connect to Eureka's recently completed Elk River Estuary Trail. It would head southward towards King Salmon. And here's a view in northern Fields Landing where it would go along on the railroad corridor with residential areas to the east and industrial properties to the west. And then south of Fields Landing, it transitions from being more inland to being right on the shoreline. And then it goes on further to connect down to Tompkins Hill Road and the entrance into College of the Redwoods. So we'll be completing the planning study towards the end of this year, and then, some decisions need to be made. Who's the lead agency to move this forward to the next phases? It could be Humboldt County, it could be the Great Redwood Trail Agency, and then developing the funding to go through the detailed design, the permitting, the right-of-way, and then ultimately construction. And then it's also important that there's capacity and resources for the ongoing management and maintenance. Also just wanted to highlight that the Hammond Bridge, which connects McKinleyville and Arcata across the Mad River, that bridge has needed replacement for several years, and Congressman Huffman was successful in securing almost half the funds that we need to replace that bridge. And so the technical studies and the engineering for that project were initiated early this year, and so we're going to be moving that forward as a priority to maintain that connection over the next couple years. And then those were bike path projects, separated multi-use paths. The county is also developing the McKay Community Forest, and this is followed on City of Arcata's model, managing for public access and recreation, sustainable timber harvest, and conservation and recreation. Humboldt County acquired a total of 1,200 acres from Green Diamond along the urban interface with Eureka and Cutton and Ridgewood Heights. And just 2 years ago, we officially opened the set of trails that are accessible at North Ridge Road in Cutton. And we're working to really finish those trails and also to build out the trails around Redwood Acres. As the video that we saw really highlighted, the county's depending on volunteers for building out the trails. There's a job for everyone, and the Volunteer Trail Stewards is really a robust program, and it's an opportunity to work together with people for a common goal, to be outside, and we have the once a month Volunteer Trail Stewards program. We have our weekly Delta Force team. We also have this wonderful program with Humboldt County Office of Education. It's through the Courts and Community School Program. And this just got kicked off maybe a year ago with students from Eureka and Fortuna. And these are kids who are in an alternative education program, and they have an option of actually having a paid internship to come and volunteer for trail building. It's an opportunity to learn skills. It's an opportunity to think about their future in terms of forestry or trail building or construction. And it's an opportunity really to help some kids really focus on working on tangible projects and benefiting the community. And then finally, we have a partnership with Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association, and they're developing some single-use trails that are dedicated for getting the flow and the features that mountain bikers appreciate. Yeah, and I want to just highlight too that we said goodbye to Bob Vogt a few weeks ago. Bob worked for the county for 10 years. Bob was the land manager for the McKay Community Forest and the coordinator for these projects. Bob grew up in Myrtletown, and working in McKay was really important to him, and dedicated just a lot of effort and care in fostering the program we have today. And so we appreciate Bob's service, and we're going to move on. We're also fortunate to be working with Dennis Houghton, who is just a tremendous teacher and leader on trail building, especially with volunteers. And Dennis is one of our main trail volunteer coordinators. You know, really Dennis has expertise in the stewardship part of the volunteer trail stewards, of really trying to develop trails that are durable, that fit the landscape, that will last over time with drainage and with people, and also trails that give exceptional experiences, high quality experiences out in the forest. And the greatest compliment you can give for a trail is to say that it looks like it was always there. So I'll end just with a few final reflections about trails. If you go to a trail, you might have a chance to see couples smiling and holding hands. You might see moms and dads with toddlers and babies. You might see a child learning how to ride a bicycle for the first time. You might see people with very happy dogs. You might see people who have no access to a vehicle, who are getting where they need to go. You may see people moving in wheelchairs. You may see people who've decided to get to work or to get to the store or get to school on a bicycle rather than a vehicle. You'll see people who are being social and people who are looking for solitude, and people moving fast and moving slow. If you're on a trail around Humboldt Bay, you may have an opportunity to see shorebirds and pelicans and osprey and harbor seals, and maybe if you're lucky, leopard sharks. So trails really allow us to move and travel safely away from motorized vehicles. Trails can take us to places we love with people we love. And trails give us the opportunity for some really exceptional experiences. We can be present, we can let go of distractions and be open to observations. We can be aware of our connection to the earth and other living things, and we can really remember what we care about deeply. And so moments like that on a trail are incredible gifts. I'm very thankful to the Humboldt Trails Council and all of you for supporting and advancing trails in Humboldt County. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Pete Jackson. Pete is General Manager and Vice President for the California Division of Green Diamond. And Green Diamond has just been a tremendous community partner for trails in our county. And Green Diamond has worked with Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association and Blue Lake for the Hatchery Ridge Trails. For the McKay Community Forest, Green Diamond was not just a willing seller. They were actively engaged in making that possible through a variety of means. And then for the Humboldt Bay Trail South project between Eureka and Arcata, Green Diamond sold the county an easement to allow the trail to go on the levee, to get away from the highway, to avoid the driveway, to avoid the last stand of eucalyptus trees, and to really have some exceptional views of the bay that very few people have seen before. And so when that project's completed, it's going to be a highlight of the Humboldt Bay Trail. So here's Pete Jackson.
I'm done. Good job, Hank. So thank you for that introduction. One of the projects I wanted to focus on a little bit today was McKinleyville. So it's my pleasure to attend this Trails Summit and talk about the establishment of the McKinleyville Community Forest and subsequent conservation easement. The McKinleyville Community Forest was part of a conservation strategy that Green Diamond developed with the Trust for Public Lands and the McKinleyville Community Services District to expand public access to outdoor recreation and create a buffer between timberlands and the McKinleyville community. COVID taught us many things, one of which was the value of outdoor areas to recreate on safe, multi-use trails. Community is a core value of Green Diamond, along with safety, integrity, and stewardship. This project aligns with these core values, and I, along with the Green Diamond team, are proud to be a part of this project. Green Diamond has also entered into a permit to allow the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association to develop trails in the portion of the Green Diamond property that is to the east of the McKinleyville Community Forest. Much like we did around the Blue Lake Hatchery area for those of you that ride mountain bikes. My son is one of them. Along with the 599-acre community forest, Green Diamond is working with the North Coast Regional Land Trust to secure a conservation easement on the remaining 2,815 acres, extinguishing development rights forever. Thank you. When completed, the community forest and the conservation easement will protect from development a significant portion of the forest land separating the communities of McKinleyville and Fieldbrook, a key element of the McKinleyville Community Plan. As Hank alluded to earlier, this is not an easy or a short process. Lot line adjustments were needed, title reports, appraisals. We had a company garbage cleanup day with about 20 to 30 company volunteers out cleaning up campsites in various areas on the community forest portion. In all, it has been so far, it is yet to be fully completed, but a 10-year process around the McKinleyville Community Forest. And that was a very similar timeline for the McKay Community Forest. Throughout all of this, I have to mention Craig Compton, our real property manager, and Lizzo Phillips, who's here today at the table. Our real property and transaction administrator has really been the two driving forces that kept this project moving forward, along with support from the Simpson Reed family, which are still the owners of Green Diamond Resource Company. We're still a private company that's been around since 1890. I must also thank Pat Kaspari and the McKinleyville Community Services District, John Bernstein with the Trust for Public Lands, and Dan Erzman from the North Coast Regional Land Trust. And finally, we must thank the California Natural Resource Agency. Their Recreation Trails and Greenways Grant Program was the entity that funded the transaction to allow that 599 acres to be transferred to the Services District. But now the work really begins. So as I mentioned, 10 years of planning to kind of get to this effort. But now it's the exciting phase where you can see trails being designed, built, parking areas established, and a forest management plan developed to guide the management of the community forest. As Hank alluded to earlier, much like the Arcata Community Forest and the McKay Community Forest, the McKinleyville Community Forest will be managed for multiple objectives, including public outreach, timber production, water quality, and wildlife habitat. John Muir is quoted as saying, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." This is a fitting quote which speaks to the benefits of this and other projects that we've talked about today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about this exciting project, which is a real win for the McKinleyville and the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's a great overview of so many great things that are happening in our community. And so without further ado, I'll go ahead and welcome our Senator Mike McGuire. Come on up, please.
Hey, good morning. How the heck is everybody doing? First and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today. I'm so excited to be here. A few introductions. I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much, Madam Supervisor, for your amazing work on behalf of the North Coast. Can we please give the supervisor a round of applause? My goodness. Thank you. Also want to introduce two amazing champions for the Great Redwood Trail. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much to Supervisor Madrone. If you could please stand. Thank you for your incredible work with the Great Redwood Trail Agency. We need to also give a round of applause to Supervisor Wilson, who is here today. Can we please give him a round of applause? Thank you so much, Supervisor. It's good to see you. Thank you. We have council members from the city of Eureka, the mayor and vice mayor from Rio Dell. Thank you so much. We have representatives from the McKinleyville Community Services District as well. Can we please give them a round of applause, please? So I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be with you and to think of the progress that we have all made together. And I want to be honest, none of this would have been possible without the amazing advocacy in this room. This room, you are movers and shakers, you're hikers and bikers, and I want to say thank you for your leadership. Because of your organizing and advocacy, the North Coast is quickly becoming the West Coast epicenter for outdoor recreation, in which we know outdoor recreation is not just good for the environment, it is good for our economy. It's good because it's going to forever protect the environment that we love and the watersheds we love living next to. And I am so damn excited to have a conversation about the Great Redwood Trail today, which, because of you, has amazing momentum. Thanks to thousands across Northern California who've been working so hard to make this decades-long dream a reality. Now, we all love John Muir, and he once said the best way to experience nature is on foot. In following Muir's legacy, I think building the Great Redwood Trail is the opportunity of a lifetime to share one of the most beautiful spaces on planet Earth, the North Coast. We want to share it with the world, one step at a time, all on the Great Redwood Trail. Now, walking the GRT Visitors and locals alike will experience the tallest trees on the planet, remote, fog-shrouded beaches, oak-studded golden hills, wild rivers, and world-renowned vineyards, and some of the most welcoming folks in the United States. Over the course of 320 miles of trail, we're going to connect the San Francisco Bay with Humboldt Bay. And the Great Redwood Trail is all about opportunity. Opportunity to be able to honor tribal lands and cultures and landmarks and lean on the wisdom of traditional ecological knowledge. Opportunity for farmers and ranchers and landowners to launch trail-serving businesses and host trail users along their journey. An opportunity to be able to reduce the threat of wildfires in our region and help make our communities more wildfire safe through vegetation management and dead and dying tree removal along the trail. And it's an opportunity to be able to welcome visitors from across the country and across the world to our neck of the woods, injecting the local economy with millions of dollars going to retail, lodging, restaurants, and bike shops. Opportunity is truly what the Great Redwood Trail is all about. And as you know, the Great Redwood Trail Agency, a brand new state agency formed to design, build, and manage the trail, released their draft master plan earlier this month. There have been dozens, and thank you to many of you who have shown up, dozens of meetings at kitchen tables and community centers up and down the North Coast that have been able to get us to this point. And I want to say how grateful we are for the level of engagement. No matter if you support the trail or have continued concerns, we're going to continue to work with you every step of the way. Now, the master plan, it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap to how the trail will be designed, how it's going to be built and funded. And the master plan is very much a work in progress that's going to continue to be informed by community and neighbor feedback. And we also know that the plan is a lot, 586 pages thus far. But we know that anything in life, anything that is significant, takes time. And once complete, the GRT will be the longest rail trail in the United States of America. And my promise has always been this: we're going to do this right, not fast. And I will also say, our time is now. It's now. You know, it's been nearly a quarter century, 26 years since a freight train ran north of Windsor. Abandoned and deteriorated rail lines run all the way from Cloverdale to Samoa and downtown Blue Lake. This is truly an incredible opportunity for reinvention for the North Coast in rural Northern California. For years, the state of California has been fighting to ensure public access on the rail line. And today, through your dogged persistence and well-timed legislation, the right-of-way finally belongs to you, to all of us. It belongs to the people of California. And we want to say thank you. And we've come a long way. We have come a long way, and we wanted to be able to give an update this morning on the progress being advanced with the Great Redwood Trail right here in our own backyard. And there are several active projects that are cooking and being constructed even as we speak. So let's get into it. We need to give it up loud and proud to the city of Eureka. Let's hear it, everybody. Come on now. The city of Eureka has completed 6.3 miles of the Great Redwood Trail, with construction back up and humming on another 4.25 miles heading north to Arcata. That is going to be completed by the end of this year. So then let's get into our second big announcement. Let's give it up to the city of Arcata, everybody. Come on now. City of Arcata has completed about 1.5 miles of trail, and then once Eureka hooks up, once they hook up, and they are bound and determined to do so as soon as possible, there will now be 14 miles of continuous trail from South Eureka through Central Arcata. Are you ready to go, Humboldt County? Come on now, my goodness. So let's talk Ukiah. Ukiah recently completed 2 miles of the Great Redwood Trail through their downtown core, and construction of another 1.5 miles will be completed this summer. And Willits is about to launch the first 1.5 miles of the Great Redwood Trail in their community soon. Further south, when we take a look at Sonoma and Marin counties, the SMART train has now completed 28 miles of the Great Redwood Trail, with another 41.5 miles in the planning stages or turning dirt even as we speak. So what else is in the works? Let's talk about the Eel River Canyon. Planning has started on the first 12 miles in the canyon, located on Wildland Conservancy land. And I want to take a moment to say thank you so much, to say how much we appreciate the partnership with the Wildlands Conservancy. Can we please give them a round of applause? My goodness. The state was honored to be able to partner with them to be able to purchase Lone Pine Ranch. So these 12 miles in the canyon will now become a middle reach outpost for hikers to rest, to be able to get a boat into the river, and to get provisions restocked. Now, let's talk about Blue Lake. 3.5 more miles to connect Arcata to Blue Lake along the Annie and Mary Trail is scheduled to start construction in 2025, early 2026. We've also have planning and design underway on the Botawat Trail from Blue Lake to Glendale. That's another 4.5 miles. And we're going to connect the Eureka to the College of the Redwoods, and we're in planning for that. Are you ready to go, Humboldt County? Come on now. And I want to be clear. As beautiful as the GRT is, these miles are more than just about opening up nature to the public. It's about enjoying their outdoors, and it's about economic development for rural California. This is truly a transformational economic engine for the North Coast, and it's going to be a huge shot in the arm for communities where the trail runs through or around. How do we know? We've done the math. Y'all get a chance to take a look at our economic study that was published last year. We have found that the Great Redwood Trail will generate about $102 million in activity annually. How are we going to do that? We firmly believe a conservative estimate will be about 5.3 to 7 million new walking or hiking trips will be on the trail on an annual basis. Visiting local communities like Lolita and Rio Dell. Now, the average trail user will spend about $64 in food and meals each day. They're going to spend about $60 in retail each day and $93 per day from each trip taken in lodging. And here's what we know. Outdoor recreation is one of the fastest growing economic sectors in the entire state of California. Outdoor recreation now generates $93 billion a year just in the state of California. And you want to know what one of the number one economic drivers is under outdoor recreation? Hiking. It creates 700,000 jobs in the state of California. Outdoor recreation does. It brings in $30 billion in wages, and $6 billion in state and local tax revenue is generated every year from outdoor recreation. And the Great Redwood Trail is going to tap into all that outside investment and more. So I want to say thank you. Thanks to the unbreakable bond and partnership with the Humboldt Trails Council, thank you so much, the County of Humboldt and the Board of Supervisors, along with the leaders in the cities of Blue Lake, Eureka, Arcata, and Fortuna. Things are happening, and we are advancing an inclusive vision for the North Coast that protects our open spaces, restores watersheds, and will build a more equitable economy for all. And this is who we are. This is who we are in Northern California. It's the way we live our life, and it's our value set. And like never before, the public craves opportunity to be able to connect with nature and do good with the dollars that they earn and spend. And make no mistake, the only reason we are here, the only reason why we have momentum is because each and every one of you in this room. For the past few years, we've been working hard to be able to pass policies, secure funding, and develop the infrastructure to be able to create an outdoor experience like no other in the United States of America. This 320-mile trail will soon be the spine of the North Coast, with numerous other trails heading off for recreational opportunities and state parks and national forests and more. And it's a beautiful dream. It is a beautiful dream. But what I also know here on the North Coast, we're not just dreamers, we're doers. And here's what we've done for the budget. With money in the bank, the trail is now a permanent fixture in Northern California. We've secured $12.5 million in state funds to be able to pay for the staffing and master plan process, which are going to continue long after the July 3rd new extended deadline for the master plan. And again, the master plan is going to take us through the next several years of hard work of designing the trail and engaging mile by mile with tribal partners, landowners, communities, and stakeholders. We also have, which is fantastic, a full-time staff team at the Great Redwood Trail Agency. And here's the other incredible piece to all this. We have $500 million in the bank. $500 million in the bank has been secured for the Coastal Conservancy for trail projects just like the Great Redwood Trail. We couldn't be more excited. We've been fighting for 3 years for this, and we have $500 million in the bank. This is how we're going to get the trail built. And we're going to get the trail built thanks to the amazing experts, no pressure, Madam Executive Director, Elaine Hogan. But look, we're going to get it built because we are doers and because we have an amazing team who we want to be able to introduce today. And I want to say thank you so much to Elaine Hogan for stepping up. And y'all know her. She has spent her career working in public service for the County of Humboldt and, of course, as a city council member in the city of Blue Lake. This is personal for her to be able to bring this home. She is a passionate trail advocate. She's a passionate trail user, and she is the right woman for the job. And I couldn't be more excited to be able to see her jump in feet first. Can we please give her a round of applause? My goodness. And she also has a fantastic team with her as well. We want to say thank you so much to the GRT staff team and to the board who's making it work each and every day. I want to end it right here and say this. You know, we're home to more diverse species and ecosystems compared to anywhere else in the country. We walk outside and see ancient redwoods and wild rivers and the incredible Pacific coastline. And that's why we're taking a stand. And that's why we've been working together to be able to protect the 320-mile right-of-way, a former rail line from another era that traverses some of the most sensitive and spectacular landscapes on Earth. Together, we're moving with purpose. Moving with purpose to be able to protect the right-of-way in perpetuity by creating something that is going to connect us all, each and every community and every neighborhood. And you have my word. I'm going to end it as I started it. We're going to do this project right, not fast. Ladies and gentlemen, I now would like to introduce Madam Executive Director. Can we please welcome her to the podium? Let's get the Great Redwood Trail done. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Tech support. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, thank you. All right, talk about a tough act to follow, huh? No pressure or anything. Well, welcome everyone. Happy National Trails Day, first of all. My name is Elaine Hogan, and I have the honor of being the first executive director of the Great Redwood Trail Agency. It's a real honor. Thank you. So I just want to give a little bit of history of the progress of our agency since we were formed about 2 years ago, and then talk about some of our future priorities, which the senator alluded to as well. So I'll give you guys some of the juicy details of what we got going on. So just first want to start with where we've been, right? So we have this abandoned railroad corridor, no trains have run in decades, and so all of you were some of the first to start thinking about, what do we do with this? What do we do with this corridor? How can we preserve it for the public good, right? And then with the help of the senator and local and state legislature, we were able to start the path towards rail banking, which we now have from Willits here north to Humboldt Bay. We've done a feasibility study, really examined what the line looks like. And then with SB 69, the Great Redwood Trail Agency was created just in 2022, so a very young public agency, and we are getting it going here. So we are here in this orange box. We have completed the first draft of the master plan, which was released in April, and we have actually just extended the public comment period until July 3rd. We've just had an overwhelming response. Thank you to all of you who have commented, and we really want to give the chance for the public to be engaged and involved in this process as much as possible. And, you know, it is a 586-page document, so I know it takes quite a bit to get through. The good news is it's very visually appealing. We've got maps, we've got photos. It's a good read. I highly recommend it. So we are in this master planning process over the last 2 years that has involved a lot of you all and various meetings and surveys and just conversations, honestly, with everyone along the line that's excited and those that are not so excited, right? We've been welcoming all ideas. There are a lot of challenges, and the draft master plan has really presented us with a set of recommendations on how to move forward. And so it's my job as the executive director to then figure out, you know, what kind of staffing structure do we need to get this done? How are we going to raise the funding for design, permitting, and construction? And how are we going to deal with ongoing maintenance, right? And so that's really the phase that we're in now. We have a great solid draft. We're moving forward through the program environmental impact reporting process through Sequoia, and engaging in our tribal consultations as required through AB 52. So we're really in this planning phase still, and you know, the things I'm thinking about are more agency logistics, about how am I going to create the agency that gets this done, right? No small feat, but it's exciting work, and I look forward to it every day. So we are in this phase and going to continue raising funds for design and permitting and construction, and keep moving forward. And of course, the ongoing maintenance and management will be a solid part of our agency's operations as we build more trail and get things set. So, as I mentioned, the draft master plan comment period has been extended until July 3rd, and so there are many ways to comment. If you have not already done so, please take a look at it at greatredwoodtrailplan.org. There's a web comment tool where you can kind of flip through the PDF and post, you know, little sticky notes on the digital version of the PDF if there's something specific you want to comment, if you have a comment about a map or anything. So really easy format. We also have a contact form. You can email us or call us and just leave us your voicemail. Leave us your thoughts on the voicemail. We are really looking forward to going through all the comments. We've received hundreds of comments so far, and later this summer we'll really get into going through each and every one of them and looking at how to adapt our plan to really encompass all the feedback and recommendations that we've gotten. So you have now until July 3rd, so that's exciting. I want to talk a little bit about the progress because, you know, this is a huge project. As we all know, it's quite the undertaking. And I don't want to lose sight of the progress that we have made and really look towards the future of where we're going. So I broke it down by mileage. You know, you have over 300 miles total, and that, you know, our agency manages the northern portion, so the northernmost 231 miles. As the senator mentioned, the southern portion is managed by SMART, so it's a bike path along the commuter train. So in terms of our 231 miles that the Great Redwood Trail Agency has in the right-of-way that we own, we've got 22% of the trail that's either already complete, under construction, in planning and design, or soon to begin planning. And I think that's great. I was actually surprised when I actually did the numbers and thought, okay, you know, we're doing it, it's happening. So I think it's really important to just highlight our success and our progress that has been made with some of the partners that you all heard from this morning, right? We can't do it without our partnerships. But we still have another 78% of the mileage to go, and we're going to start working on it. So I want to talk a little bit about our future planning priorities. In partnership with the Wildlands Conservancy, we have another 8 or so miles, and that will always be evolving and adapting as we look at the planning and also look at strategic acquisitions in the Eel River Canyon and see what we can do with the property and the right-of-way that we have out there. So the Wildlands Conservancy has been a really key partner. And I also want to highlight, you know, from Alder Point to Emerald Waters Reserve, which is Wildlands Conservancy Reserve out there,
We are working really at the grassroots level. So there's a group of community members in Alder Point that are looking to getting a planning grant. Really excited neighbors looking for the economic revitalization of that area that has been, really affected with the downfall of cannabis. And so you have people that really want to stay on their land and are looking forward to revitalizing the community. So just a grassroots group of people that are interested in trail planning that can be a part of this. So this is really a project, this is not a top-down project. This is a grassroots project. As you know, all of you have been involved in the visioning for trails in this county for quite some time, and this is how we make it happen. It's from the bottom up, and obviously also with support from the state. Really important part. Another future planning priority, the county's planning grant from south of Eureka getting to College of the Redwoods. Now we want to look to plan College of the Redwoods to Lolita. Again, a lot of momentum in Lolita with neighborhood groups of people led by the Chamber of Commerce in Lolita to really get that section started in planning. And you look at Lolita, their community park is GRTA property that they lease from us. And so it's a really key opportunity to talk about an awesome trail town. You've got Jersey Scoops down there now. You've got I don't know if you guys have been there, but the line is out the door. Just one little ice cream shop is just boosting that town up so much. And we want to continue building on that momentum. Lolita in our draft master plan is planned to be a community gateway, which is the largest of trailheads. It has the most amenities and really provides the most economic benefits for the region. So Lolita is a key destination with that park, and of course the current tracks and future trail going right through the center of town. So great example of another grassroots community-led effort and really great potential for a trail town there in Lolita. And then also working with the Humboldt Bay Harbor District, as we develop the marine terminal, offshore wind, and other opportunities that are coming to the Samoa Peninsula, it's another opportunity to build more trail, right? Every part of development is another opportunity to build more trail. And so really working in close partnership with the Humboldt Bay Harbor District out on the Samoa Peninsula to get about another mile on their property that is right alongside our right-of-way there. So that's all really exciting developments, and that's some of the future of where we're going. And I'll end there.
Well, this is the perfect time for our panelists to come on up, and we will have you join us at the edge of the stage, if you would. We've got a few questions already, and we're going to start with, we're going to keep rolling about the Great Redwood Trail. So let's go into a few of those. I know you talked about the operations and maintenance plan, Elaine, and Senator McGuire talked about the investment that we have up front. There are several questions about long-term sustainability and trail maintenance. And so let's start with that. Are there any thoughts you'd like to share about longer-term plans to ensure that the trail is maintained over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and I'll let Madam Executive Director chime in on this as well. So, I think number one, I want to welcome Supervisor Rex Bone, who is here, who I know is busy, and acknowledge the other supervisors, and I think we need to give him a round of applause, please, and say thank you so much, Supervisor, for. So, what we have right now is money in the bank for the trail construction. That obviously could also go towards trail maintenance. So let's talk about costs. So where we firmly believe we're going to end up with costs, 90% of the trail, approximately 90% of the trail on the north coast from the Sonoma-Mendocino County line all the way up to Samoa will be backcountry. That will be the least expensive portion for construction. Now there are several ways that we could do this, right? We could put in dirt and or gravel between the railroad ties, between the rails, and that would probably be anywhere between 15 and 20,000 a mile. Again, if we're just filling the rail bed with dirt and or gravel. The more expensive areas and longer term maintenance will be within our community centers. So the trail that is going to extend from Eureka to Arcata, the trail that will run through Lolita, all that will be, for example, asphalt, where you can both ride a bike, hike, walk your dog. That will be approximately 100,000 a mile to several 100,000 a mile. Because what we also have to take into account, underground facilities, water and sewer, you have, most of the communities are well over a century old, and who knows what's buried underneath there. So we firmly believe, and that's where the bulk of the cost for the construction is going to go. But the good news is this: we're doing most of the hard work. The hard work will be most expensive in the community centers now. What we're seeing with Arcata, what we're seeing with Eureka, and that asphalt has about a 25 to a 35-year life, maybe a little less because of the coastal climate. That's why it was so important to get that $500 million into the budget. That could then go towards construction and ongoing maintenance. The last thing I'll just say is there will be a climate bond on the ballot this coming November. I guarantee you, as honored to be leader of the Senate, you're going to see additional dollars embedded in that climate bond for non-motorized transportation, and that will, at the top of the list, will include trails. So that would also be ongoing funding. But Madam Executive Director, I don't know if there's anything you want to be able to add.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Senator. I would just say that in our draft master plan, we do have comprehensive operations and maintenance recommendations. And so it's really my job to look at how we implement that as we build more trail and we take on the ongoing maintenance and management of those sections of trail. So included in our draft master plan are things like staffing recommendations. So hiring, for example, an operations manager that would then be built out to hire trail stewards and trail crews that are actually working those backcountry trails regularly, maintaining the restrooms, getting the trash, things like that. And when we talk about maintenance, another part of it is analyzing our infrastructure on a regular basis, right? Making sure we're looking at, we have tunnels, bridges, trestles, culverts, and making sure we're getting those things on a regular maintenance schedule to avoid full replacement, which is very costly. So really getting a handle on our infrastructure and ongoing analysis and maintenance to keep it fully functioning. So we're looking at this, again, as being a world-class trail. This isn't something that you just build and leave and forget. It takes active management, and that's part of why my agency was created and part of the staffing plan and the funding structure that I'm creating. So look forward to it.
And I'll just add one last thing. One of the items that Madam Executive Director, her board, and the staff are also doing is looking at revenue opportunities for the trail. So, for example, we have had some folks approach tentatively on what we could do with fiber optic line being laid underneath the trail, for example. There are other individuals who have asked in regards to broadband line that could be laid under the trail. So I think that there's also some revenue opportunities. In addition, this agency will be continuously funded by the state of California so that the annual overhead of staffing would be covered. So I think that's the other really big piece that we're looking at, and I think some really unique opportunities that this trail will have versus other trails across the state.
Awesome. Well, we're going to continue with this theme because we know that the Senator has another engagement. So we want to make sure to get these Great Redwood Trail questions out there. There was another question about tribal engagement, as well as whether there's an opportunity for some land back along the Great Redwood Trail, how that's being explored, and how tribal engagement is working.
It's a great question, and it is at the top of the priority list. Here on the North Coast and in this portion of Northern California, we are honored and grateful that there are more tribes than anywhere else in the entire state of California per capita. And we must engage one-on-one government to government to ensure long-term success of the trail. So there's been 22 separate tribal meetings thus far through the master planning process. Approximately 370 tribal members have been formally and directly engaged. As far as opportunities, I would look at a model at the state parks. California State Parks is advancing. I think that there is a lot of opportunities for co-management as we move forward here in the months and years to come. We want to be able to ensure that tribal representatives not just have a seat at the table, but are providing direction for the future of this trail for decades to come. And the last piece I'll just say is everyone needs a benefit from this project. And I think we also need to look at economic opportunities that we can work with tribal nations here on the North Coast on how they too are going to benefit from the trail. And the last thing I'll just say is this. We know historically what railroads meant to Native people here on the North Coast. That is history that we never want to repeat. So I will guarantee you, and I will make you a promise, and I'll turn it over to Madam Executive Director. It is our top priority to continue to sincerely engage and work on a co-management process. Madam Executive Director.
Absolutely, totally agree. Tribal engagement and community engagement is an ongoing part of this project. This isn't something where, we just have a little comment period and we take your comments and then you never hear from us again and we just start doing whatever we want to do. That is not part of this process. And so, with the history of the railroad, people have been excluded from their traditional ancestral land since the railroad was there, right? And we have a legacy of contamination and hazardous waste that is left over from that industry. And the trail, having now a public agency as a steward of that right-of-way, means that we have the opportunity for healing. We have the opportunity for tribes to gain access to that land and to be involved in co-management of it. And we also have the opportunity to clean up the hazardous waste and the legacy of the railroad industry that is left, especially in the Eel River Canyon. So it's a really important opportunity to work very closely in partnership with tribes.
It just takes a second to kick on. I felt weird not looking at you when I'm asking you the question, so I moved over here. Thank you so much. So this one might be for multiple folks. A question around sea level rise and planning for sea level rise along portions of the Humboldt Bay Trail and the Great Redwood Trail that could see those impacts in the future.
Hank Seaman, Humboldt County. Developing the Bay Trail between Eureka and Arcata, the flood hazards and considerations for sea level rise were a top concern. We did a detailed study to really try to understand the flood risks and incorporate that into the design. And it's important to realize that the railroad had not had investment and maintenance and capital improvements for several decades, and in areas where it's functions as the shoreline, it was eroding and deteriorating and really increasing the flood risk. And so these trail projects provide an opportunity to do those repairs before they're catastrophic. And so we did shoreline repair for a 1 mile segment. We're raising the elevation of the railroad in certain areas where it was low. And then in addition, we've also initiated a project to look at the feasibility of expanding and restoring the salt marsh that was along the shoreline there before the railroad and the highway. And that salt marsh could serve as a living shoreline that provides a front level of defense for flooding. It helps reduce the wave energy and reduce erosion and also restore natural habitat that's rare around the bay. And so that study is just getting initiated in the next month or two, and we'll have the results in a year and a half if that can be a tool for reducing flooding risks and sea level rise. And then the study that we're doing, looking to go from Eureka to College of the Redwoods, it's a similar situation where there's portions of the railroad that are on the shoreline that are deteriorating, and if there's no investment soon, it's going to be a bigger and bigger problem. So this is really an opportunity to not just create public benefits, but also avoid storm damage and the other impacts.
Thank you so much. One more about the Great Redwood Trail around some of the harder to access, more remote parts of the trail and the fire risk and emergency response risk for hikers and users of the trail. Could you say a little bit about the thinking around that and how that's being planned for?
It's a great question, and it's top of mind every day for the board members who are here, for Madam Executive Director, and to the staff. So that's why we're advancing a master plan, to be able to determine what the long-term costs are going to be and the challenges when it comes to construction. And we need to be able to determine how to be able to leave this community stronger than where it is now. That means we have to reduce risk and increase investment. So on the increased investment, what we know through our economic study is that rural communities in some of the most remote stretches of California are going to greatly benefit from this trail. 2, we have to reduce risk. And what we know is the North Coast Railroad Authority was near bankruptcy. They were flat broke. They were an anchor of a public agency, if I could be candid. They didn't invest one damn dime for years on wildfire safety in some of the most wildfire-prone communities and regions in the state of California. That's changing. 1, wildfire risk reduction is part of the master plan on how the agency, the Great Redwood Trail Agency, is going to reduce wild and fire risk now and into the future. 2, there's actually funding for this agency. One of the biggest challenges that we saw with NCRAs, they were broke. They could not keep up a rail line, let alone keep the weeds down. And so now you have someone that's picking up the phone, has budget to be able to do wildfire mitigation even as we speak, and meet community needs. And what you will also see long-term is that the agency is going to be partnering with volunteer fire districts within more remote communities, fire departments, and CAL FIRE to be able to develop this long-term wildfire mitigation plan for vegetation management, dead and dying tree removal along both areas that are more incorporated and in the most remote stretches. Madam Executive Director, take it away if you think.
Definitely. So vegetation management, very important part of reducing our risk for wildfire. And when you have a corridor that's being actively managed, you are reducing the risk of wildfire. It also serves as a fire break. It's a long linear corridor. It serves as a fire break if it's being actively and appropriately managed. I have put money into the budget next fiscal year for vegetation management, and I'm really looking to get smaller contracts set up with our rural volunteer fire departments and some other local community groups to handle that vegetation management right in their backyard. So really looking to get the funding down to the local level to continue that stewardship and management. What else can I say? As we get trail built, before we get it built, we will be working with law enforcement, CAL FIRE to really identify the access points that are on our property, as well as maybe setting up agreements with private landowners if we need road access, for example, in the event of an emergency. And because we own property outside of the right-of-way, but all along the trail, some larger parcels, looking to strategically use those for the staging of emergency first aid equipment, for example, that can be utilized by first responders. Also, when we think about our trail stewards and our volunteers and our own trail maintenance staff, making sure that they have things like wilderness EMT or wilderness first responders, so that when they're out there hiking, if they come across someone, they know how to respond and to stabilize them and how to contact emergency responders. So,
the only other item I'll just mention is that there was strategic investment. We secured funding last year, thanks to the partnership with Supervisor Bushnell, for volunteer fire companies and fire districts in southern Humboldt, northern Mendocino. So there will be 12 brand new Type 6 fire engines purchased within many of these fire companies that are along the trail. And that would be part of first response if and when there is a medical emergency and or wildfire. So not only are we looking to the agency, but the state also has to invest. And that money is actually in the bank right now for those different fire districts and fire companies, and they already have the engines under contract. And by the way, these are some of the first new engines that will have been purchased in some of these more rural fire districts in 50 years. So again, this is strategic investment because of this trail. We need to be able to build up emergency response. We need to be able to build up rural economies. And we actually have to have a responsive public agency with funds. And now we have that will be able to work with you to be able to make our communities more resilient and candidly more fire safe.
Thank you so much. I know this project has been a huge passion of yours and continues to be. And having this agency, having the funding to do good planning, and to look to the examples that we have. Thankfully, we're not the first to develop a trail along a long old rail corridor. This has been done all over the country and has had really great benefits for communities. So we can look to some of those examples, and that's wonderful to have that blueprint. So I want to take an opportunity to pause to thank our amazing Senator Mike McGuire here. Thank you. So we do have a few more questions we'll get to. I held the local ones for the end, recognizing that the schedule was what it is. We went a little over. I didn't rule with the iron fist that I did last year, so on the schedule. So we will continue with some questions if you all have time, and then we'll also have some time at the end for you to mingle and ask questions one-on-one of these folks. So there's a few points that we're not going to be able to get to, but we'll get to as many as we can. So lightning round. This one's for Pete from Green Diamond. There were several questions about access to, through your lands to get to publicly popular areas like Strawberry Rock or like along the logging roads in the McKay. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you as a company address these, requests for public access versus the safety considerations you all have, and how you go about that.
Yeah, thank you. So our timberlands, as many of you have seen, are gated. They're off limits to the public. Many years ago, we didn't actually have gates on any of our timberlands here in California, but we had multiple lawsuits of different things over the years that really led us to closing off the timberlands. We also have some state and federal permits, that talk about how we manage trash and, things so that we don't encourage corvids. And we have the logging, road building, lots of activities going out in the woods, so there can be safety concerns. How we handle issues for access in areas that aren't currently open to public access are really by request. So we look, who's requesting, where they're based. We like to take care of neighbors first, and if it's a use that's not going to be incompatible with what we're doing, we consider that on really a one-to-one basis. Other areas you mentioned, like Strawberry Rock, other areas that have more of a need other than an individual, we're looking at other ways to address that in the future. So there's more projects that are coming up here, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Awesome. And you do have a table here, so folks can come over and ask more detailed questions about that then. The next one is really going to be for city folks and county around, there were a few different types of questions about these trails, particularly like trail movement and courtesy on the trail. Some of the pictures showed traffic only going in one direction on the trail, so there were some questions about managing multiple uses of the trail and how that goes, how that can be done more effectively. And then I'll just throw in there that there were also questions about what is the trail prism? So if folks could talk about both trail courtesies and how the trail prism is and what that is.
I guess I'll start. So I think the courtesies and, I guess going to the design, the prism to start with maybe, because that'll help kind of delineate how it's used. The trail prism is generally the bedding that supports whatever the trail surface might be, including the shoulder that helps support. If you have a paved trail, you often have a shoulder that supports the trail, so it doesn't erode at the edges. It also gives, opportunity for further, use off to the side if you need to, navigate around a trail user. So that's typically, it probably depends on the type of trail we're talking about, whether you're talking about a recreational trail or more, a transportation trail, like a Class 1 trail facility, where there's very strict guidelines as to what the width of that trail can be and what the shoulder width can be. And so that's what you see around with the Waterfront Trail and Humboldt Bay Trail. Oftentimes, is, those are typical Class 1 trail facilities, and that's a standpoint that can vary from relatively narrow to wide. And
2 mics, because I think this one's actually louder.
Great, I'll hold it closer. Yeah, and then use-wise, I think early on in the waterfront trail, I think we had less striping that delineated like a center line, so to speak. There's no set rule of like you know, as far as like you have to be on one side or the other, but that very much lets people know where they need to be on the trail if there is bidirectional flow, and you know, stay to your side like you would in a roadway in order to allow people to, you know, navigate the trail. I'll leave it at that and see if anybody else has anything to add.
Well, as Jesse was really speaking to, there's multiple ways to address kind of concerns of multiple users on our trails, and he spoke to some of the design aspects, and there's also education and encouragement. This past year, the Humboldt County Association of Governments collaborated with the county and Eureka and Arcata and other jurisdictions to try to develop and hopefully then later expand share the trail signage, banners that have consistent messaging and kind of just reminders of courtesies when passing and slowing if you're on a bicycle, and giving a warning that you're coming. We're hoping just with the completion of the connection of the Humboldt Bay Trail to have more of that consistent messaging, and hopefully you've seen some of those out on our local trails. As well as it's kind of up to all of us also of doing those aspects ourselves and making that more of a commonality for that courtesy on the trail. Also, just in the city of Arcata's community forest, you know, we also utilize those type of signage, work with our partners at RCMBA and others to really encourage those courteous use of trails. But in certain situations, especially in the forest, we're also looking at ways that we can split the types of traffic and have more downhill speed-oriented bike trails be separate from opportunities for people to walk up and down the forest. So multiple ways, both in design and then in our education and discussions in the community.
Great. I think let's do one more big group question, and then I'll point out a couple of topics that have come up that I think each of you would have the opportunity to answer afterwards, just so we can say, like, do the matchmaking of like, oh, you have this question, here's the person to talk to, and then we'll break because we are a little over time, and I know everyone's been very patient. So e-bikes and electronic transportation apparatus continue to come up. Any thoughts from the panel about what the guidelines are or how that is being envisioned for trail use and, again, operating together on the trail?
Maybe continue with the collaboration with Humboldt County Association and Governments and many multiple jurisdictions. Concerns about e-bikes and speed were really one of the concerns that brought up that collaboration. And we also really recognize that e-bikes are often a growing to be more affordable way to connect to places and are making our trails even more accessible to more people. And so I think they're a key part of the commuting landscape, being able to have even more people enjoy the bay shoreline and enjoy the forest. In the city of Arcata, our Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are welcome, and those are kind of have max speeds of less than 20 miles per hour. And our education is really focused on any bicycle user having that courtesy and awareness of other trail users.
Yeah, I would just add that I think there's opportunity for community organizations that represent trail users to just try to help us develop a respectful culture of sharing the trails and being mindful of people with a range of abilities and speeds, opportunities to go slow where you need to and fast where you can. You know, it's challenging for local governments. It's tempting to think about more of a regulatory approach, but the reality is we just have really little or no resources to actually enforce that. And so our discussions over the last 2 years, the thought has been really to try to promote voluntary awareness and support for managing speeds and trail users. I think it'd be a good opportunity for the trail organizations who are here to help us in that message.
Well, that is a perfect segue for us to talk about who's tabling here and how you can get answers to more questions. There were a number more specific questions that we didn't get to in this open forum. We did go a little over time because there were so many exciting trail updates to talk about. So we've got, again, Elaine Hogan from the Great Redwood Trail Agency. So if you have detailed questions about the Great Redwood Trail, please go to her or her team. We've got Hank from the county. We have a couple questions about connections over to Glendale and Annie and Mary connections, so those could come to you, or even to Caltrans. There are some questions for Caltrans, so there's a Caltrans table here in the back. I don't think there were any more questions for you, Emily, but Emily is with the City of Arcata and can talk about the Annie and Mary trail component that's moving forward soon. Pete with Green Diamond can talk about any other questions around Green Diamond and Strawberry Rock. Somebody had a lot of detailed thoughts about that. And then Jesse with the City of Eureka. In addition, and there were a couple questions for you, Jesse, about specific attributes of our roadways. And so we have, in addition, we have the City of Rio Dell here. They're doing a really exciting project. The Eel River Trail, I've been so excited to see that come to fruition, and it's going to be completed this summer. We've got the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association here, Humboldt Trails Council and the Volunteer Trail Stewards, Humboldt Bay Trail Fund, which helps to support maintenance, Bigfoot Alliance, Backcountry Horsemen, Redwood Parks Conservancy, Redwood Invasive Plant Eradicators, Sequoia Park Ivy League, so a couple of really awesome teams that eradicated invasive plants there, Wildlands Conservancy, and the Coalition for Responsible Transportation Priorities, and Bike Month Humboldt. So those are our tablers. They're going to be here. Make sure to check them out. Thank you so much for coming today.